So science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is obviously the STEM acronym. But we are graduating about 70,000 STEM students currently annually every year from our post-secondary institutions, colleges and universities. So this is going to add a little bit over 20,000 more seats, recognizing the importance of our STEM to our economy. I was just jotting down some notes when Graham was speaking, whether it's mining, life sciences, health, human resources, or even the new EV automotive sector that has been, really growing with Minister Fideli's help. I think we have over $40 billion of investments into our EV and new burgeoning automotive sector. So we need STEM students, and we do recognize that STEM students, once they graduate, their rates of employability are higher, and their wages coming out of post-secondary institution are higher as well. So lots of excitement coming from this announcement. Lots of good news. We're going to be able to, train more students here in Ontario to be able to help the pipeline that's needed for our economy right across Ontario. And I don't think I need to tell the media on the call, but our economy is booming as of late, especially in the EV sector. It's been seeing such significant growth, and recognizing that we have a lot of labor market needs when it comes to STEM students. So, not only are we protecting our economy of today and tomorrow, but we're also ensuring that we're protecting the students' opportunities to be able to train at our world-class institutions right across Ontario. So at that point, I don't know if there's any questions, but I would love to be able to answer some questions if there are some from the media outlets.
Yeah.
And Bill, thank you for the hand clap as well. I appreciate the excitement on this announcement. It's pretty significant at 750 million.
Perfect. Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to go over to questions. So first, and everybody, if you have any questions, just send me a message on the group chat, and I will make sure to go to you. But first, I'm going to go to Rami with Oxygen.
Hello, thank you very much, Minister, for this opportunity. And I would like to ask about the big drop in the instructors and professors staffing, because you know that the federal decisions about not bringing international students lead to a lot of those professors to be laid off. So are there any plans to feed the universities and colleges with more students, or to avoid this professor crisis?
So really good question, Rami. Ultimately, I'm sure everyone's aware on this call, but the international student file does live with the federal government. So we've been, trying to advocate to the federal counterparts, understanding they're in an election right now. But we truly understand the uncertainty that the federal government has announced, multiple announcements last year. Our international students and their families are unsure of the certainty of coming to Ontario or coming to Canada. But we have been advocating because we do believe the federal government didn't put a regional lens on some of the approvals for international students. So depending on the courses they're coming for, some are approved and some were not. Case in point, early childhood education was one that wasn't approved initially. And we advocated very strongly, myself and my ministry team, to try to get the federal government to understand what their decisions are, what their policy is doing to not only our colleges, but also our universities, but also the communities that we serve. We recognize the importance that our international students bring not only to the universities and colleges, but also the cultural importance that they're bringing to our communities, especially in the more rural areas. The impact that our international students are having are significant. In my own community of Cornwall in Eastern Ontario, I know up in Northern Ontario in Sault Ste. Marie, speaking to some of my colleagues, the impact on the community is significant. So it's not just to the institutions at the post-secondary, but the community at large. So we understand some of the chaos that has been created by the federal government, and we're going to continue advocating once the federal election is done. because we understand that with less international students, there are unfortunately a rebalancing that is going on more on our college sector than our university sector. But we are worried about Brand Canada and the damage that has been done because our international students, they're not only good to have in the classroom as well, but they're really great to have in the community also. So that's something that we're going to continue passionately advocating with our federal counterparts once that election is done, because the impact, especially on those smaller communities, is significant and pretty swift as well. So this investment on top of the $1.3 billion, that significant investment prior to my time last year into the sector, to be able to stabilize some of the sector, but it is changing pretty quickly because the federal government made about 14 announcements last year on the international student file, and each one of those announcements really resonated outside of Canada and Ontario in that regard. So we're going to continue passionately advocating and explaining to our federal counterparts the need for our labor market with international students as well.
Follow-up questions, if you permit, for me, it's regarding the 750 million and investments in the education of STEM. Are there any chances to focus on the AI, artificial intelligence studies, as it will be the future? And are there any kind of intern or training programs for the youth secondary, high school, or for post-secondary education?
Yeah, so AI, as much as it's above my comfort level, every visit I go, whether Western or U of T, or we were just at CHEO Hospital in Ottawa, as well as Ottawa Hospital, the General Hospital, and I'm amazed with my research title how much AI is being used. I was at Discovery X down at the Enercare Center in downtown Toronto last week, and there were some TMU students that were there, and they were using AI to be able to find energy savings in heating and cooling of homes, but also of the office towers. And no new equipment, just the AI piece is extremely important to be able to find efficiencies of about 20 to 30% on their energy costs with that. So as much as it's way above my knowledge level, AI is extremely important when it comes to our STEM and our research that's being done at our post-secondary institutions.
All right, thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Bill with Greca TV. Bill, you just need to unmute there.
Thank you for reminding me. And thank you, Minister, for being with us today. It's a great measure, and I understand this in addition to the $1.3 billion that the government has announced already. My concern is the time. I understand all these initiatives are to protect Ontario in the Premier's and the government's initiative vis-a-vis the erratic threats from the South. And my concern is that I understand that each skill level requires certain time and duration for someone to be qualified in a certain skill. Do you have a time frame in order to help the economy, to create our own positions in the different industries? Do you have an estimate of how long would it take for these people to be actually ready to contribute to the development of the market?
Well, and that does fluctuate. Great question, Bill. Thank you for that. It does fluctuate depending on the course they're taking. Obviously, if they're in an engineering course, you're looking at a four-year degree in that regard. Some of them can be a little bit quicker, but for the most part, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 years. But ultimately, it'll be this September that the extra 20,000 seats will come online at our institution. So very quickly, they will be getting trained and skilled up, but it will take some time to integrate the new seats, the 20,000 seats. But as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, we are graduating about 70,000 STEM students annually already in our post-secondary institutions. So this is just an expansion of that, because we do recognize how quickly STEM students are employed after graduation. Their employment rate is extremely high, as well as their rate of pay coming out of STEM graduation is also higher than the average rate of pay of post-secondary students. So it will take that 3 to 4 year cycle to get them into the actual economy. But as I implied, there's 70,000 graduates currently on an annual basis coming through our system right now.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you,
And good
Bill.
luck.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I'm going to go to Khaled Salama with My Second Home TV.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Minister. Minister, how do you identify the need of a certain STEM seat, and how you estimate the amount of dollars associated with each seat of them when it comes to funds?
So estimating the amount of dollars is a bit challenging because STEM is more expensive to offer than other seats. And that's why we say approximately 20,000 seats, because STEM programming is a little bit more expensive to run than other programming in our colleges and universities. Like business programming would be one of the cheaper levels of programming to support. But when it comes to STEM, there is a bit of a variable in there on the 20,000 number, because ultimately the 20,000 that we are funding were unfunded seats previously. So last year, prior to my time, Minister Dunlop was able to secure $100 million of one-time STEM funding to the institutions, Khalid. But ultimately, the real challenge that we heard from the institutions was it wasn't base funding. It was only one-time funding. So it wasn't necessarily helping the future years. So we heard them loud and clear. And that's why this $150 million is base funding over the next 5 years. But we focused a significant amount of those dollars into those unfunded seats that institutions already had. So that means they weren't getting a subsidy from the government to have those students. So they were over the limit that we subsidize. So they had, depending on the institution, some of them are hundreds of students, some of them could have been thousands. They are now being funded on an annual basis. So that's where the majority of the dollars went to, were to those schools that went above what they're funded for and went significantly above, and now they're being subsidized to have those students, because the ones prior to being funded from the government, they were only making money on the tuition from students. So this is allowing them to have the tuition piece, but also the grant piece, so that, again, as I implied, these are expensive programs to run, that they'll be more feasible for the institutions, because without the grant piece, the tuition wasn't necessarily covering the full cost of STEM.
So just to make sure that I understand clearly, so you are bridging the gap between what's needed and what should be there right now. Is this does this make sense?
Yes, yeah. So to a certain extent, so that would be about 75% of the funding. Another 1/3 or 25% went into every institution, colleges and universities that were offering STEM as well. So there was a bit of a top up for every institution, but the majority of the funds weren't necessarily in the top up. It was bridging that gap and filling the need of those unfunded students.
And my follow-up question, when it comes to your comfort zone, as you mentioned a while ago, the AI. Do you think with the current situation of everyone rallying to make another inroads when it comes to AI, you will be losing lots of other jobs, maybe your job, maybe thousands of other jobs, and how you look into the future of the humans, especially the people who cannot cope with AI?
Yeah, and I don't pretend to be a technology person myself, so AI does intimidate me more than I utilize it. But I know some of my constituency office staff, they do embrace it for some of the rough drafts that they do, and then they'll utilize that human component afterwards. But recognizing that the economy is changing fairly quickly in that regard. And to be honest, there's a lot of new jobs that are coming online to be able to do the maintenance on the AI, to do the research that comes with the AI too, because I see AI as a really powerful research tool. But with that, you need human researchers to be able to to take the data and run with it and be able to quantify what's taking place. But I am I am just at the edge of being a millennial, but I am always concerned about AI possibly, taking over some of those jobs. But I do believe it's a shifting of the economy that there will always be need for humans. So I don't see it as necessarily taking over jobs, but maybe adjusting some of the priorities and the job descriptions of the employees themselves.
All right. Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Logan with Youth Day and Newspaper.
Yes, thank you, Shannon. Good morning, Minister Nolan, and my good friend, Minister of Citizenship, Graham. I saw him a second time in this week. Thank you. Thank you, Minister Nolan, because I have been living in Ontario for last 35 years, and this Ministry of Colleges and Universities, now there are one added to your ministry, research excellence. So that my question will be very appropriate to ask you. You have your ministry is funding $750 million for postgraduate or to do masters or research or something. Recently, I got to know two scientists in Ontario. One is in our family. She's a family member. She had been working for American company as a data scientist. But after the recent changes or recent issues with the US and Canada, they lost their jobs. So as a journalist, I hear or I notice that many scientists, they have been working for US companies from Canada. At the same time,
Recording in progress.
The federal government, I heard they stopped funding for science researchers. So I heard that is the reason for many scientists to find employment from or from US under the companies there. So I don't know the funding from province for this research or for science research or anything. As a minister, I would like to know the funding for research in science or technology, how it works for the province of Ontario or with your ministry. And have you heard about the funding elimination by the federal government in Trudeau's government? That's my questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Logan, for the question. So when it comes to the $750 million, that isn't focused on the research piece. That's on the STEM student path. So those are new student seats. But since 2018, prior to my time in government, we've invested, the Premier Ford and the PC government has invested over $830 million into research. Last year alone, we invested $277 million into research in Ontario's universities, colleges, and at some of our research hospitals as well. So with the $830 million that we've invested in provincially, we've been able to leverage a little bit more than $1.3 billion, both federally and from private sources as well. But we have heard some concerns, especially during some of my tours, about the federal government scaling back some of their research dollars. So ultimately, after this next federal election, we're going to continue advocating, because we do believe right now, you mentioned the connection with the USA and Donald Trump. I'm sure all of you are aware, but University of Toronto, which has some of the best researchers in the world, they've now retained 3 new researchers from Yale University, a husband and wife right after the election of Donald Trump, but then another world-class researcher has come up to University of Toronto. because they have such a strong reputation on the international stage for both research and for education excellence. So yes, there is an opportunity right now for us to possibly retain some of the U.S. researchers that are feeling slighted by the administration south of the border. But recognizing, Logan, what you mentioned about the federal government here in Canada and some of their priorities with research. And once the federal election is done, we're going to continue advocating passionately because I see a significant connection between what we're doing in research and Canada's lack of productivity. Over the last 20 years, our productivity levels have gone down. And I do believe research is our way into having more of a productive economy, not only in Ontario, but across Canada. So I'm delighted to have the research excellence and security added to colleges and universities as part of the ministry title, because we already have world-class researchers doing amazing research right across all of Ontario. To have a more heightened focus on it, especially during these uncertain times with the federal government, I only see it as a net benefit to be able to support the great research that's being done in Ontario.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Logan.
Okay, next I'm going to go to Dimitri with Greek Press.
Hello there, people. Forgive me for that delay. Hello, hello. Minister, I dearly thank you as well. I have to be honest from the beginning, though, that I might be considered a little bit old-fashioned or even quaint in my thought. But understanding the need to build up an economy, etc., and building up the market for tomorrow. At the same time, we have, and you know it well, as well, we're living in a democracy crisis worldwide. My question has nothing actually to do with the whole program, but do you believe, as a person and as the minister of colleges and universities, that there's an immediate need to redesign the curriculum to address democracy's existential crisis by centering critical thinking as the non-negotiable foundation for both meaningful democracy tomorrow, and I'm talking for a generation tomorrow, and a sustainable economic innovation?
Absolutely. So you probably don't know this, I have 3 young children of my own. My wife is an elementary school teacher, and just being in the constituency office, there is a bit of a disconnect between civics and the levels of government, and who is doing what level of government. So that's always been a concern of mine, and it's something. I think my dad taught me at an early age that the first opportunity you have to vote in a democratic institution, you take that opportunity. It's the same as getting your license. If you don't get it at 16, sometimes you delay getting it. So yes, I do have concern with what's going on around the world with democracies, healthy democracies. But that's where our colleges and universities, post-secondary specifically, our universities more than anything, they play a very important role for those conversations to be had, for those debates to be had in a healthy manner. And I do believe it's important, as the Minister of College and Universities, for there to be an arm's length in between our universities and our democracy and government in that regard, because I do believe any jurisdictions around the world that keep a bit of a distance between the research and the education that is happening in our universities, democracy seems to be a bit stronger and more well ingrained in those jurisdictions. So we see it as very important to ensure the universities have their independence to be able to do what they need to do, but also have those important conversations that, as you implied, help democracy not only for today, but for years into the future. So it is a concern of mine having 3 young children. Sorry, I got off topic there, but ultimately, a healthy democracy is essential to have a healthy society.
Okay, thank you. So that's all the questions I have been given. However, Mr. Saras, I saw that you're unmuted. Did you have a question?
Well, thank you.
Minister, we are talking for a country with big immigration. Sorry about my voice. I'm a little bit sick, but you are safe up there. What I want to tell you, you're going to dedicate $750 million to education. It is very important, especially in Toronto, in some areas with high immigration level, that the children are going to school and some of them are not getting even something to eat. Can you please take a look and see if your ministry can provide something, at least to those that they are in areas compressed, very oppressed? This is something that has to be done years back. Sometimes it was going, I remember I was member of the board that period of time, and we managed to give a few things during the lunchtime. But now I hear again that nothing is provided by the schools. And this is very important in those difficult times economically. You understand how those families are depressed, and the kids, they suffer. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, very, very good comments. I just want to clarify, are you referencing elementary and high school for some of the food programs, or the post-secondary college, university?
Well, it's, I mean, we are talking about the first step of education. Secondary school also included, I believe.
Yeah, so they do have some healthy food programs both at the elementary and high school level. But I do hear your concerns around the affordability of post-secondary education, and that would be why in 2018 Premier Ford cut tuition by 10%. So post-secondary, both college and university tuition, we cut it by 10% because we recognized, with equity, we want to make sure that post-secondary is available to everyone, regardless of their socioeconomic status. And then the other piece of that was tuition has been frozen since 2018. So not only did we cut it by 10%, but we also froze it. So for the last 7, almost 8 years, tuition hasn't gone up at all. And with points of high inflation in the economy right now, the savings have been fairly significant for not only the students, but for the families as well, because we recognize that the cost of tuition is not only affecting the students, but their parents and their extended family as well. So that is something that is always on our radar to make sure that post-secondary education can be as affordable as possible for everyone, because we understand the opportunities that post-secondary does provide, not only to new immigrants, but also in my area of Cornwall, we were a mill town, and for the longest time, we didn't have necessarily a lot of post-secondary education graduates because you always got a job at the mill. So, first generation post-secondary education students are extremely important, not only to the economy in Toronto, but right across all of Ontario, to ensure that we're giving them that hand up in that regard. So I hear your concerns when it comes to affordability. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Bill, I think I saw you're waving your hand again.
Yes, a secondary point that I'm thinking is, I wonder if it's viable for colleges and universities to have a shared program with other countries with the graduating classes and expedite their immigration or work permit since they're graduating, so we have more numbers to infuse into this program that we need to develop in the economy.
It's a good question, Bill. So there are some partnerships in between institutions overseas and in Ontario and Canada. But there could very well be more opportunity for collaboration. So that will be something I do take away. I do meet with the presidents of the schools quite often. So I've been saying it since I've got into this role about 8 months ago, but collaboration, not only with our own institutions in Ontario, but also institutions right across Canada, and to be frankly honest, those world-class institutions right across the world. So I see there's always more opportunity for collaboration, both internally, both externally, because ultimately our labor market does have a lot of gaps, and our graduates are the ones to be able to fill that and grow our economy the way we need it to be. Great question, Bill.
All right, thank you. And I believe Khalid just had one more quick question he wanted to add. So I'm just going to go to him, and then I think that's it for the afternoon.
Thank you
Go
so
ahead,
much for accommodating. And Minister, I know that you have a big file of ghost colleges on your plate. Can you please elaborate on that and whom you are working with, and just give us some highlights? Thank you.
Yeah, so just on the college side, or do you want the broader perspective? Broader? Yeah,
Yes.
so obviously we work hand in hand with Colleges Ontario. They are the voice of the public college system right across Ontario. So they are that collaborated voice. Council of Ontario Universities, that would be another one on the university side. We do meet with them quite regularly, as well as working with our research institutes, whether that's IPON, so Intellectual Property Ontario is one that we work on, because not only are we doing great research in Ontario, but it's to bring that research to commercialization. So that's extremely important, because historically, Ontario and Canada haven't been great to commercialize our research. So IPON has been doing really, really great work with researchers right across the universities and colleges across the sector. So that is a fairly significant amount of our partnerships are with the individual colleges and universities, as well as the career colleges. So that is under the umbrella of Ministry of Colleges and Universities. There's the public colleges, but also the private colleges, which are part of the career college system, which are extremely important for our talent pipeline that's needed in Ontario. So there's multiple facets to my ministry, and research, as I said, has always been under the umbrella since 2020 of colleges and universities, but having it highlighted and having a little bit more of a focus on it, especially during these chaotic times with what's happening with Donald Trump down south of the border, it just gives a reassurance to our researchers across all of our universities, colleges, and our research hospitals that we understand the importance of the work they're doing, not only for the outcomes of our students and our patients in the healthcare field, but also for our economy in that regard. So lots of more good things to come with the extended title. But we do spend a lot of time with Colleges Ontario and Council of Ontario Universities that we hear a lot of feedback from them, but also directly from the institutions themselves.
And if I may ask, how about ghost colleges?
What do you mean by ghost colleges?
These colleges that only give rubber stamp and take advantage of international students.
So that has been something prior to my time, but also with the federal government, needing the PAL, so the provincial attestation letters, and designated learning institutes. Those are two things that we're doing. There's always room for improvement, but I think the federal government thought it was worse than what it is. About 99% of our institutions are handling and treating our international students really well, giving them a quality education. There were a few bad players that were in the system, but we're constantly reviewing and inspecting the system. So we're making more checks and balances to make sure that when international students come here, that they're getting the best quality education, but also quality of life as well. It's not just the education that they're coming here for. They're coming here for the quality of life and ensuring that they can be part of the Canadian dream.
Okay, thank you. So I believe that was the last question. Minister Quinn, I'll just pass it over if you have any final words, and then we'll wrap up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shannon. No, thank you all for taking the time. As Minister McGregor did mention, it is a Friday afternoon. It is finally the weather changing, or at least here in Eastern Ontario, we're finally getting some nice days. But thank you for taking the time to meet with me, because this is a great announcement during uncertain times in the sector. The $750 million going to base funding to the universities and colleges is very much well appreciated, but also recognizing 20,000 more STEM students being graduated on top of the 70,000 we're already graduating. I see not to be cliche, but the sky's the limit when it comes to the opportunities that our STEM students have with our growing mining sector, our growing EV sector, our growing life sciences sector, but also the needs in our healthcare sector. So this expansion of STEM student seats is only going to benefit everyone in Ontario.
All right. Thank you. Well, with that, I'll say goodbye to everybody. I hope everybody has a great afternoon and a good weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
You as well. We thank you.
Thank you so much. Talk soon.